This is SILL Talks, episode 12. Welcome, star architects, to the SILL Talks podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping architects and creatives build businesses that are sustainable and profitable. And as always, I am your friendly guide, Egbeyon Leonard. And today, we're about to delve headfirst into the thrilling world of freelancing in architecture. This episode is not just about surviving, it's all about thriving and achieving greatness in a field where creativity meets commerce. And because of the terrain in Africa, most architectural practices, most firms are either one man owned or two persons owned. And even though they have staff, quite a number of them, most of them still operate like freelancers. Now, picture this, a career where you call all the shots, you shape the future of spaces and you're charting your own unique journey in the world of architecture. It sounds pretty enticing, right? Just hold that thought. It is not just about those breathtaking skylines and groundbreaking designs with beautiful facades and all. There's much to consider. So in today's episode, we are going to uncover the hidden gems and the treacherous pitfalls of being a freelancer, or as I like to put it, a one-man architect. I'll delve into the 6 freelancing pitfalls that I personally have had to, deal with interacting with freelancers and all of that. And this can actually even make or even discourage you from pursuing a career in architecture, from unpredictable workloads to the maze of low pricing, undervalue, and every single thing in between. So architects, designers, and creative minds, fasten your seatbelt and get ready for the next few minutes of captivating insights and actionable wisdom that will reshape your approach, to your architecture career. I'll ask you to stick with me to the end, and by the end of this particular episode, you'll be ready to conquer the world, but one blueprint at a time. Once again, welcome to the SILL Talks podcast. All right, so let's kick things off with the first pitfall associated with freelancing or one-man architectural practice. Like I stated earlier, when you're looking at freelancing and you have people who have been in the industry for a while, experience the same issues. We experience the same issues in this case because I'm also an architect and I'm in the built environment. I go through all of these things that I'm talking about here every other day, right? But what I'm stating here are the things I've had to deal with and how we have constantly overcame them at SILL Designs and Render Like a Pro. So the first one is inconsistent income. Goodness, freelancers, you are often, most times often faced with roller coaster of feast and famine when it comes to finances mostly. 1 month you are balling, your projects are rolling in and everything, and the next you are even struggling to pay for a subscription or pay the NEPA bill or something. Unlike the salary positions where you know how much at the end of the month will come. Freelancers and one-man businesses most times are often plagued with fluctuating financial landscape most times. And as a result of these, feast and famine circles, they frequently go through periods of abundance, of course, where you have so much, plenty projects to come at the same time. Then all of a sudden, maybe the next month you are experiencing dry spells. Because of that, it is hard to actually manage your cash flow. So cash flow management becomes really hard because you have tricky income that is not consistent, and then you now have to struggle with covering both your personal and your business expenses during the slow months, and it can be frustrating. So financially, you will be stressed. That's the first one, inconsistent income. And how do you deal with this? Practical solution that will help you. One of the first things you can do, as a freelancer or an architect who is in the build space but your business isn't so big, the first thing you can do is to diversify your income stream. You don't rely on 1 or 2 major clients and you think everything is fine. You need to figure out project types, different clients, large, small. Diversification is your friend in this case, and it will help you stabilize your income over time. Then when you do that, within the period where you have abundant flow, you need to create a financial safety net. I cannot stress this enough. During your prosperous period, you need to set aside a portion of your earnings into a dedicated savings or emergency funds or whatever you want to call it. Having that financial cushion sometimes it provides a peace of mind during the period when you don't have so much, right? Then you now budget wisely. You develop a detailed budget that covers your essential expenses throughout a period, right? Now this budget can also help you make informed decisions about project acceptance, what you accept, and of course your spending. Then you also look at how to build a long-term client relationship, because when you cultivate those relationships, you look at clients who offer you consistent work or retainer agreements. You can now look at ongoing partnership and how they provide a more reliable income stream, right? When you look at that, you can also project forecast. You look at the period. When you look at the data of maybe a year or two that you've been in the business, look at how the period when you are likely to have in abundance, the period when you don't have so much, so that you can plan, right? So these few things that I've listed will help you combat inconsistent income as a freelancer. You need to diversify your income. You create a financial safety net. It's very, very important. So now, the second pitfall that most one-man architectural practices or freelancers in the built environment face is unpredictable workload. Freelancers, freelance architects most times are often in a space where they find themselves working on tightrope when it comes to managing their workloads. You are project juggling. There's so many projects on your hand at this point where you have enough, right? And then each of them come with its own set of demands and deadlines, and balancing this can actually be overwhelming. And because of that, it may lead you to burnout and stress, right? Now, the pressure to deliver, especially when you are doing high-end quality architectural products, because I call them products, whatever services you give, they are products, right? And you are putting yourself in, don't forget, as a freelancer, you are looking at delivering the top-notch services, right? So that person can call you back. And because you have so much to do, you are stretching yourself thin, and it can lead to burnout and stress. And if you want to be wishy-washy about your services, that of course will lead to inefficiencies. So overcommitting and taking on projects that don't align with your expertise can lead to inefficiencies as well, and then lower the quality of your job, right? So that is focused on that unpredictable workload. And in order to do this, in order to overcome this, well, I have a few pointers that we have done or used here that we believe will help. The first thing is to effectively manage your time. You need to implement robust time management practices, tips, whatever the case. You need to use tools like calendars, softwares, planners, schedulers, set deadlines. You need to allocate your time effectively for each of the projects you are working on. Then you need to also prioritize, right? You need to assess the urgency and importance of each of the projects that you have in your pipeline. You then need to also focus your energy on the high priority task while delegating. You can delegate or postpone the less critical ones to do later. The next thing you want to do, I've mentioned two things right now under unpredictable workload. We looked at effective time management, prioritization. Then the third one will be you need to set boundaries. You don't hesitate. I keep saying it. Do not hesitate to say no to certain projects that will stretch your capacity thin. It's essential to maintain a healthy work-life balance. If not, that burnout is inevitable. Then also, you need to look at project sequencing. You need to strategically sequence your projects to avoid overlapping deadlines, because it can be crazy when you have deadlines today and the next one is just a week after, or the next one is just next day, and then you'll be confused and you don't know what to do. So sequence your projects. You need to consider the complexity, how complex and the workload of each of the projects before you take on new ones. Look at the timeline before you set your delivery date for each one, right? Then you now also, when there are too many, one other thing that most freelancers don't do is we want all the money to ourselves. Most architects, we want all the money to ourselves. So we don't really like outsourcing or delegating. So that in itself is the fifth point you need to note. Delegate and outsource when appropriate. When you do that, you can free up your time to do more critical aspects of your projects. That way, you are delivering top-notch services at every turn. Then you need to set realistic expectations. When you have so much work and they are all overlapping and all, if the clients do not know that this is the expected time it takes to do this work, you need to be transparent with them from the word go about your availability and your turnaround times. You need to manage their expectations from the onset so that there's no unnecessary pressure. For us, for example, I'll use a typical case of visualization here at Render Like a Pro. One of the things we do that is very peculiar to us is when we take a project, we look at a timeline, considering the projects we already have in our pipeline, right? Who is assigned to what and what time do they need to deliver that? When we take in a new project, we factor those timelines from inception into it, right? And then we use to calculate, okay, if it's going to take 3 weeks, if it's going to take 1 month, if it's going to take 90 days for the project to be concluded, you state it there categorically, clearly for them to see why you're sending them the bill for what it will cost to do the work. So if it is something they cannot do, they are clear on the direction they want to go in the first place. So you need to set realistic expectations. And also, I know that I cannot stress this enough, you need to self-care. Prioritize self-care practices such that you need to take regular breaks, you need to exercise, you need to relax, you need to maintain your physical and your mental health all through, because the stress can be crazy. So you need to find ways for self-care. And the next one is you need to invest in improving your skills. So you need to continually learn. Then also look back, regular evaluation. How are you doing? Is the workload too much? The client relationship, are they happy with your work? What is causing stress? Basically, look back. You have to have, key performance index to measure some of these things. So all of this, if you are able to do this, it will help you deal with unpredictable workload as a freelancer. So that takes us to number 3. Moving on to the pitfall number 3, call it client relations. Sometimes clients can be challenging, no doubt, from changing the scope, to unrealistic expectations. The key here is clear communications. And when you set that expectations from the start and you create detailed contracts and maintain regular feedback system with your clients, it is hard for scope creep to happen. Now, scope creep is when you have a scope that is established from the beginning, and then clients definitely will have changes along the way. And when clients request for additional work that goes beyond that original agreement, sometimes potential delays and increased stress, it can lead to unpaid work, because by the time you are clumsy with the whole system, you don't have a proper feedback channel, proper communication channels with your client, you will find out that you are having clients that are not happy, and most times you are not unclear about your communication, and that misunderstanding resulting in dissatisfaction of your client is the end of your business most times with them. So what can you do to overcome this? Every client you have, you must give them detailed contracts. You need to have outlined what your project scope is, what are the deadlines, what are the milestones. If you are attaching payment to milestones, let it be clearly stated. If there is any additional fees for any scope change, for example, we at SILL Designs, if we have done maybe test renders for you, for Render Like a Pro rather, we've done test renders for you and you are fine, you have approved, and we move on to final renders. At the time we have done final render and sent to you, by the time you come up with any change within that framework of that final render, say, okay, help me change this, even if as low as color change, that attracts 50% of the original cost of one render. Very key, and it's clearly stated out. So you need to have that, and you also need to regularly update your clients, right? You need to maintain open lines of communication, regular updates, status report, progress meetings, so that they know where the project is at every stage, so that built up stress doesn't eventually. Some people cannot deal with stress, right? Especially as freelancers. So they may collapse under that pressure, and then you now see people stop picking their calls. I don't understand it really. You have a project to deliver, you haven't met the deadlines and you're not picking your calls. That is the craziest thing to do. Now, when you keep an open communication, right, with your clients, they will know ahead of time when that deadline is going to move. So they are not acting all surprised. If they are going to vent, they already would have planned it with their timeline. So regular updates will help reduce the chances of misunderstandings, right? Now, you need to actively listen. You need to practice active listening during client meetings and discussion. You need to ask questions to be sure at every point where you are at, so as to clarify any ambiguities and ensure you are thoroughly on the same page with the client's vision and, of course, expectations, right? So you also need to set boundaries. Very, very important. You need to politely but firmly communicate what your boundaries are with your client. This is the limit to which we can take this for. You need to explain what you can do and cannot accommodate within that project scope, the timeline, and all of that. If there's a change, will it affect the timeline? You need to politely let them know. Then also, you need to set up a system where if there is any conflict, this is the process we will take to resolve it. In client relationship, as a freelancer or as a one-man or a small firm architect, it is important to set that with every of your clients. That way, they already know the proper channels to go to. And all of this helps you deal with client relations. You need to have the detailed contracts. For example, I keep advising people, it is important at the point of initiating a project that you discuss your terms of service with your client. Send them a copy. Let them know this is what it takes to get us to work. And your terms of service is more like terms and conditions. Let them know ahead of time. If you are doing visuals, for example, it is intellectual property, it's still our own. Whether we give you the images, what you are paying for is rights to use them. So that when they tell you, okay, you cannot post this particular image or you cannot do this, you tell them, okay, let's agree on a probational period, or you are buying the images outrightly. It means it's more cost for them if you are never going to use such images or such work, display it as your own or anything. So we move on to the fourth point. Pitfall number 4. Quite a number of creatives go through this, and it is isolation. Freelancers often work, alone, and this can lead to feelings of loneliness and isolation. Loneliness most times, can lead to feelings of isolation, of course, which negatively may impact your mental health and overall job satisfaction. And of course, may lead to lack of inspiration. You are just not inspired. Isolation can stifle that creativity and make it difficult to stay inspired and stay innovative. To solve this one, it's simple. Isolation. Don't be isolated, right? But it's not as simple as that as well. The first thing for you is to seek out professional networks and join them. Be actively present, participate actively in industry-specific groups and forums, social networks, and all of that. Connect with people, stay updated, and then you may want to consider the options of working from the co-working space with, people of like mind, so as to keep you gingered, keep you inspired and innovative. Also, consider attending events. That way, you get to, rub minds, see new perspective to life, and then most especially work on collaborative projects where you are not the only architect or you are not the only freelancers. It gives you an edge in a way to see things from other people's perspective and makes your work better. So let's do a quick recap. We've talked about inconsistent income and how to overcome them. We've looked at unpredictable workload and how to manage them. We've also talked about how to relate with your clients and the pitfalls of working in isolation. So those are the 4 points we have treated. Come back for the other 2. Let's take a quick break and take a message from our episode sponsor. I'll be right back. This episode of the SILL Talks podcast is sponsored by Render Like a Pro. Render Like a Pro is an architectural visualization-based platform which will take you through all the steps to creating beautiful, realistic, and self-expressing renders and images from your projects. Let us make your ArchViz journey a sweet one. Get started with us today by signing up via www.render-like-pro.com. support@renderlikeapro.com or simply send us an email at support@renderlikeapro.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Let us transform your projects. Welcome back, guys. We are still looking at freelancing in architecture and the pitfalls associated with it and how to overcome them to build, businesses that are profitable and sustainable as architects. So moving on to fifth one. It's similar to working in isolation, right? But it is self-doubt. Freelancers sometimes question their abilities, and this in itself leads to imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome, take it from me, right? It is like a beast with many, many heads. I know first-hand experience. Imposter syndrome makes you feel unworthy, and then you start doubting your abilities and you feel like you don't belong in this space, as if your expertise is not enough. And believe me, it will impact on your self-esteem and then your productivity, and above all, your pricing, what you can even command. Right now, dealing with imposter syndrome and self-doubt, how do you get that out of the way? The first thing I have noticed that works perfectly well is mentorship. You need to seek guidance and mentorship from experienced professionals, in architecture. A mentor will provide you with deep insights and share their experiences. Experience is gold. It's a valued resources that you cannot joke with. So when they share their experiences and they will offer encouragement and advice, that's what mentors are for. Right? It will help you gain confidence and fresh, deep perspective on how to deal with issues. And another thing is you need to embrace a growth mindset and know that learning is for life, right? Continually learn, improve your skills and knowledge, and then you need to attend workshops, like I said before, online courses, seminars. Stay updated with the trends and advancements in the industry. That will help you deal with self-doubt. And then you also need to do self-affirmations. It's very important because sometimes these things begin to creep in, especially in your low moments, those lean moments where you don't have so much projects that makes you feel like a star architect, and then you now start questioning, what am I even doing? Am I even enough? You need to start affirming to yourself. You need to keep a record of your achievements so far so that you can lay hands to them and say, okay, I did this, so I am enough, right? You need to actually also consciously work on your mind so that it doesn't keep telling you, self-doubt. Self-doubt is a monster. And when you cultivate a growth mindset and then you seek mentorship, you need to remember, right, that even the most seasoned architect has faced challenges at the beginning of their career. And self-doubt in itself is a part of the journey. It shouldn't even define the journey itself. It's a part of it. Leaving you on that, we'll move to pitfall, number 6. Number 6, it's underpricing. Many architects, many freelancers undervalue their skills, right? Leading to financial struggle and dissatisfaction because you do not know your value. And this in itself makes it hard to actually charge what you are worth. Now, these challenges, when you devalue your skills, you set low prices, on your expertise, it leads to financial struggles and it makes it difficult for you to sustain your business. And when you have an unsustainable business, believe me, it can be very difficult to even invest in the right tools, in the right computers, in the right software, in the right training, even in the right growth opportunities. That then hinders your long-term growth and then you start struggling because you have undervalued yourself. So, what do I say? The first thing to overcome underpricing is to make research. Do a detailed market research. Research industry rates. What are your competitors even charging to ensure your pricing aligns with the standards and of course your level of experience and your skills. Now I'll give you a typical example of Render Like a Pro. I'll use Render Like a Pro a lot because that's like a practical example of where we have applied some of these rules, and as well as SILL Design Architects Limited. When we charge, say, between I'm hesitant to call figures, but it's one of those things. Whatever you are charging, how well is it corresponding with the people who are playing at your level and your experience? You need to have that in mind. Perhaps I'll mention the figure when I'm talking about the next point. Don't worry. So the next one is you need to, instead of approaching it from the point of pricing solely based on the number of views, the number of this you can do, how about you change to a value-based pricing? Maybe in another episode, I'll look at how you can value-based practice. I think that's a very catchy episode topic. I'll look at value-based practice so that instead of pricing you like crayfish, what they will be pricing is the value you are bringing on board. And value-based pricing is considered amazing because it works wonders. And when you price your service based on the value you are bringing to the table, the client will take into consideration the project complexity. What is the experience? What is your expertise you are bringing on board? Let me take another example for you. Render like a pro, when we do visuals for people, right? And you look at the real estate in Nigeria today and the value our visuals per image brings to board. And you tell somebody your image costs 250k per render, for example. Because of how much the value of that render, when it's crispy, it's clean, it's detailed, it's up there, helps them sell their project to the world. The value will not make them see how much it is. It's actually not expensive compared to industry standard, right? But they will find that money because they see the value you bring on board. Also, the third one here under pricing that you can use to overcome underpricing is transparent pricing. Beautiful. I will explain this also using an example. When you communicate your pricing clearly to your client and then you emphasize on the value they will receive in return, transparency then builds trust and it then justifies how much you call. I don't know if you get. So for starters, when we, for example, issue out invoice, say this is your number of views is this. They already clearly stated that on this complexity of project, we never give a price without knowing what the project is actually. We have seen this, you have requested for 5 views. Originally, 1 view is so and so, right? But if you are doing more than 3, we give you a discount of X, Y, and Z. If you are doing up to 10, we give you this discount. So all of those terms are clearly stated even before they proceed. So it's clear. If you are going to make changes after the final render is done, you are making changes, it costs you 50% of the original fee per render, right? So all of those is clear from the word go. And that in itself builds trust because they would have calculated, okay, how much will I spend on this project from the word go. So there are basically no hidden charges. So keeping your pricing transparent is another way to help you combat underpricing. It helps communicate your value, and as such, you are not priced anyhow. Then the major one is you need to have an idea of what incremental increase is. When you gradually raise your rates, as your skill and reputation grows, it allows you to command higher fees without even shocking your clients that are already with you, right? I'll give you another example. When we started actively doing visuals in 2016, 2017, I will shock you to know that sometimes we did views for as low as 10, 20,000 naira per view back then. But as we learned, we grew. Some of those clients back then are still with us, paying 250, 300k per view now because they have watched the transition, they have watched you grow. We did not just wake up and say the price of per view is 250 or it's 300. Do you understand? So basically, that incremental increase, as you've seen it over the years with the improve in the work and how your journey has been, that helps them to know that, okay, this is where we are at. As when we started, we were here, but we are now here. So incremental increases help them communicate your value and then it reduces underpricing. So basically, we talked about the 5 now, where we looked at inconsistent income, unpredictable workload. We looked at how to relate with clients, working in isolation. We also looked at self-doubt and then underpricing and how to effectively, practically now overcome all of this. I always tell people, know your worth. The value you place on your product or service is what your customer will pay. Don't be afraid to charge what you deserve. Clients who value quality, they will always pay for it. Have that in mind. All right, that brings us to the end. That brings us to the end of this thrilling, power-packed episode. But of course, our journey doesn't end here. It's just the beginning of your path. When you apply all of these steps, all of this practical advice, it begins to your architectural greatness. It's actually now your turn. I'm sure we've had a lot of experiences, right? We want to hear from you. What resonated with you the most in this particular episode? Are there any specific challenges you have faced as a freelance architect or, as a one-man architectural practice, or perhaps you have your own success story to share with us? Drop your comments, drop your thoughts, drop your questions, your experiences. Please drop them below or reach out to us on social media or on our website. We're here to support you on your journey Basically, your engagement is what forced my passion to do this, right? And remember, action is the catalyst for change. Take that first step, implement those solutions, and let us know how it goes. Your success stories may just be what helps, the next struggling architect out there to conquer their own challenges. So stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and they are packed with knowledge, inspiration, and of course, keep designing, keep creating, keep chasing and crushing those dreams, guys. Until the next time, this is Leonard signing off from the SILL Talks Podcast. See ya.